I was in labor for 26 hours and was in a lot of pain as I didn't take an epidural. My husband was constantly on the phone either playing games or talking with his bros being really loud. When I asked him to please hang up, he'd hang up the phone and then like 10 minutes later call them back. He really wanted to talk to them because his friends went on a boys' trip without him. Because I asked to stay back so he could be here when I went into labor, they were calling to tell him about how their trip was going. He apologized to them, blaming it on me being a nag. I was really annoyed and told him if he wanted to talk to his friend he could do that elsewhere so I can be in pain in peace. He was like, alright fine baby, I'll just call them back later. So I had about 20 minutes of peace until his mom FaceTimed him, where he proceeded to put me on the video call. His mom makes a comment about how she remembers when she was in labor with him and that she still did herself up. She even claimed she looked so good the doctor even was flirting with her. I was holding back everything inside me to not say something as I didn't want to disrespect my mother-in-law, but at the same time she sometimes just made the stupidest comments at the worst times, and at this moment, I could not stand talking to her. A nurse ended up coming in and could tell I was upset and asked me if everything was alright, and I told her I just really want to be alone. She ends up kicking out my husband and in turn, he ends up missing the birth of our firstborn daughter because he left the hospital because he was pissed off that I got the nurse to kick him out of the room. He refused to come to see his daughter afterward because he was angry at me for kicking him out. My mother-in-law, who did visit me in the hospital, wouldn't stop talking about how I'm such a bad wife for removing my husband from the room. When I got home, he kept on bringing up how I ruined a moment of bonding with his daughter and how he could never forgive me for that. Am I the idiot for kicking my husband out of the delivery room because he was making phone calls? Not the idiot. That's a whole lot of red flags from your husband. 1. Had to be told not to leave on a boys' holiday when his wife would likely be giving birth to his child. 2. Ignored his laboring wife to chat with his friends on said trip. 3. Called them back after being told to hang up. 4. Answered a video chat from someone you didn't want in the room. 5. Allowed that person to be disrespectful towards you. 6. Went off in a sulk instead of visiting you and his child as soon as he was allowed back in. If he has a problem with the situation, you could ask him what he was feeling the last time he had a new person escaping from his vagina so you can compare notes and come up with a compromise. 100% all of this. The deflection makes me angry for her. She needed her husband and he acted like a child. Childbirth is nothing to joke about. Women die in childbirth and it's painful. Definitely not the idiot, but having to tell a grown man how to act isn't something you want to be doing while in labor. Absolutely. Maybe I'm just always looking for an out, but I would have filed for divorce the second I left the hospital with that behavior. I absolutely love and adore my partner, and he is literally the only green flags. I'm pregnant, and if he did even one of the things on this list while I was actively in labor, I would get my friends to pack my crap up and never come home to him. This is disgusting behavior. Not the idiot. The nurse kicked him out of the room. He's the one who chose to leave the hospital altogether. Tell him. You missed the birth of your daughter because you threw a temper tantrum and left the hospital. If you had been focused on me and the baby instead of playing games and having loud phone calls with your friends, I never would have asked you to leave the room. You're mad that you missed this moment? Well, I am mad that when your daughter and I needed you most, you prioritized chatting with your friends and complaining about what an ag I am. I am mad that when I was in an incredibly vulnerable position, you let your mom insult me. I am mad that you are blaming me for something that was the consequence of your own selfish actions. I am mad that you are still making this situation about yourself and playing the victim instead of celebrating that I gave birth to our daughter. I'd copy and paste that into a message to him. Because that's exactly what happened. My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the Subway app, and I told her to pick the location that has a drive, that way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car just to clip him back in a few minutes later. She told me it's not a big deal to leave the baby in the car to run in and pick it up really fast. I had no idea she ever did this. I told her I was not comfortable with her leaving him in the car alone even for a minute, and she told me she's been doing it since he was born, and it's always been fine. She told me she does it to pick up food, run into the post office or pharmacy, etc. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area, but it's also not super safe either. I told her to not ever do this again. She told me she never stopped to think about the potential dangers and that she would stop doing it. Well, yesterday as I was driving home from my brother's house, I spotted her car at the gas station near our place. It was parked in a spot up front and not a pump, so I figured she stopped in to grab some snacks, which we like to do. I decided to stop and go in and say hi and get some food, and I pulled in and parked next to her. However, when I got there I was furious to find our son in his car seat. The car wasn't even locked. I don't know what came over me, but at that moment I decided to take my son and put him into my car. He's got a car seat in there too. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes for her to appear. When she saw that he was gone, she looked stunned for a second and then started to frantically look around and cry. I didn't let it go on long. After this I saw her pull her phone out, presumably to call 911, and that's when I pulled my car around to her. I parked, got out and walked around to my son's door and opened it to show him to her. She looked extremely relieved, but that quickly turned to anger with her asking me why I took him and did that to her. I told her she needed to learn her lesson and she promised to stop leaving him in the car and that she was extremely irresponsible. It was so easy for me to pull up and take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed. So if he really was taken there would have been no help and it would have been 100% her fault. She proceeded to call me cruel and psychotic and tried taking our son out of my car into hers. I said no and that I would be driving him home, and I left. She came home not much later but ignored me the rest of the day. She acknowledged me today saying she wanted an apology and I said absolutely not, and she's the one who should be saying sorry. She's been guilt-tripping me the rest of the day, saying no mother should experience the fear I put her through. Did I go too far? Am I the idiot? Normally I'm fully against game playing, but this is your child's life. I support your actions. Your wife is being hugely neglectful. Not to mention it'll be warm soon and being left in a hot car even for a few minutes can be deadly. Not the idiot, and I wouldn't let her take him anywhere until she apologizes. Honestly, not the idiot in my view. She leaves your son unattended in an unlocked car. Not only can he get kidnapped, but 5 minutes during a hot summer day can be enough for a heat stroke. Or someone stealing the car, not realizing a kid is on board. Or a million other risks or dangers. You ask her not to do it again. She agreed and still did it again. I wouldn't leave my kid with her to run an errand again. Not the idiot, but I have to say. What would happen if your wife forgets or she takes longer? Have you read about babies sitting in hot cars and what can happen? Being kidnapped is only one of the many awful outcomes. Every year my family spends Christmas in Hawaii. We've done it every year since I can remember, and it's a fun family tradition for me. After me and my husband had kids, we had to reorganize our family Christmas plans because his parents wanted to see our kids for Christmas, so we decided that we would celebrate Christmas with his parents on New Year and go to Hawaii for actual Christmas. This is the system that worked for us until last year. Last year his dad passed away around this time of the year and it hit him and his mom hard. For obvious reasons, we didn't go to Hawaii. This year we planned out what we'd do for the holidays early. We'd do Thanksgiving with his mom, and we'd do Christmas in Hawaii since me and the kids missed out last year. Things were going well until right before our flight. About a week out, he said he was unsure. He said that he thinks it might be better that we stay. He said he really wanted to spend Christmas with his family and felt like his mom really needed it. I was unhappy about this. We made a plan, we saw her last month, and we already had my dad buy our tickets and hotel, so it would be incredibly unfair to me, him, and our kids for us to not go just for his mom, who we'd see a few days after we got back anyways. We got into an argument about it and proposed that I and the kids can go to Hawaii and he can stay there with his mom. He decided to do this, but he was very clearly upset that I wasn't going to forego my family's Christmas tradition and see my family just for his mom. So now I'm in Hawaii watching and wrangling the kids by myself. While he's home alone. He has said texted me or responded to me much. When I call him he only talks for about 3 minutes before wanting to get off the phone with me and talk to the girls. Am I the idiot? I think not the idiot because you stayed home the first year after his dad passed away and you had agreed to the Thanksgiving Christmas arrangement for this year. He changed his mind after all the arrangements were made. However, I think you and your husband need to talk about this more. Where are he and his mom in their grieving processes? How does he envision things working in future years? Does he want every Christmas with his mom now? Does he want to do alternate Christmases? Or is this year just particularly hard for both of them? No idiots here. I feel for your husband, he lost his dad a year ago, and his mom is spending Christmas without her partner. With plane tickets bought and hotels arranged a week out is not enough time to change plans. I agree with you about not wanting to cancel and taking the kids to see your family. I do think you need to cut him some slack here, though the holidays can be really hard for people who have lost loved ones recently. I think you're all doing your best in this situation, and I don't think there is any right answer here. Hopefully, your husband can join you next year, and maybe you could have a conversation about that when you get back. Not the idiot. If he had suggested 6 months ago before the trip was planned and paid for that you spend Christmas with his mom and adjusted the family holiday Christmas schedule accordingly, then that would be different. But he waited until 1 week before after you'd already spent Thanksgiving with her and the whole trip was paid for to suggest canceling your side of the family's holiday and doing Christmas with her as well.